Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. Beautiful day, getting a lot done. Let me show you what I'm up to. Some of you folks hate the Murray tractor. Some of you guys own Murray tractors, so you're kind of stuck with them. I don't know. This is about the Murray tractor, so if you hate them, such is life. I was given this from a friend of mine. He kind of gave up on this tractor, and he said the piece of crap's always broken, so I got it from him. And the first problem was it would move for like a little bit, and then it would just stop moving. All gears, forward and reverse, everything, blades didn't go around, nothing. And then you'd kind of like, you know, swear under your breath and walk away from it and come back to it and start it up and put it in gear, and it would move for a little while, then it would just stop moving. Turns out that, and by the way, this is a Murray Select wide body 16.5 horsepower overhead valve. It's got a Briggs in it. It's been a pretty good tractor. From the start and move point of view, once I fixed a couple of things. First of all, about it not moving, turns out this pulley here, the one on the motor, the keyway on it, it's got kind of a area where they stamped a keyway into it, so when you bolt it up, it slides onto the pulley, and that stamped area is what grabs the engine shaft. Well, it turns out that wore out, so I just put a new drive pulley on it, and I got over the drive situation. And since then, from a drive point of view, it's been fine, but I've had pesky problems with the blades. I rebuilt the spindle assembly on the other side, and I went to cut grass, and this side started to act up. So, you know, you do the normal troubleshooting. I'm not quite close enough. I did the normal troubleshooting, and the pulley wasn't stripped, which was all good. So I got underneath it, and I put a spoon wrench on the bolt up here. That spoon wrench, then I use my PB blaster on the bolt down here, and I got underneath, and it turns out that the blade was loose on the shaft. So obviously I loosened the blade, I loosened the bolt up, and dropped the bolt, the washer, the blade, and you can see in this case there's another few parts that go in here. There's a pipe in there, and then the bearing, there's a pipe that keeps the bearing from pushing in too far, and then this piece goes up here like this, and it's got a splined in area here. And basically the blade smashes between here and here. Well, to drop the washer. Yeah, anyway, the blade's supposed to smash between those two and be tight, but unfortunately these wear out. So this wore, and they're shot. Last time I ordered parts to fix this thing, I ordered what I thought was a spare one of these. Right, here's the old one from the other side. So I ordered a spare, but it turns out that they're different. This one, you see how it's cupped, and this one, you see it's not. So to get around that, I put this on the lathe and I turned it down, right, basically to this shoulder here, and now this went up on the shaft, and I was able to put it together. In the meantime, a friend of mine offered me up another deck. I don't know. I don't recall what I paid for this deck. $50, $75, something like that. And the deck's in really nice shape. But I wanted to look this deck over to see if it was similar. And I once again put my spoon wrench here and took my 18-volt hammer and hammered on it. And it turns out it is quite a bit different. Mine didn't have the lock washer. Here's the friction, one of the friction bolts. And this must have the kind, when you turn this, see how the whole thing turns, how this whole thing turns. So two different type of spindle assemblies. Now I imagine, let me aim the blade in the right direction. I think this is the right direction, right? Oh, are you sharp or dull? You're sharp, which means I should have sharp going the same way, and I do, so there you go. So I don't know which one is newer, and I'm not quite sure about serial numbers. But what I need to do is I want to order the parts and get this Murray back to life. You guys know most of the time I use the 0 turn, and it's been a good mower and all, but I want to get this Murray back to life, and I want to get it back to life to either keep it or kill it. My problem with this unit is it's a 1998, right? She's approaching 20 years old. Next year it'll be 20 years old. And those lock washers weren't underneath the blade bolts like they were on the deck on the side of the house. Now, why weren't they there? They weren't there because some individual, I'm not going to say moron, though I feel moron in my heart, they're not there because some individual didn't put them back there, or they're not there because they were never there. My lean is I'm going to get a pair of those lock washers and smash them underneath there. It doesn't look like they're going to hurt anything. If anything, they might tighten up the whole assembly a little bit. The way it keeps from smashing the whole thing down too much is you got a top bearing and a bottom bearing, and there's a piece of pipe in between that that rides on the bearing race. So as you tighten it down, right, you got this race, and the piece of pipe in between, right? So as you're tightening down on it, you're not putting stress on the bearing. You're just keeping the bearing from moving up and down, right? Because once again, race, bolt, and then you know it stays within the holders. You got the pulley on top that keeps it from coming down, and you got that blade piece I just showed you to keep it from moving its way up. So fixing a Murray blade bearing issues. All right, one of the things I do with this video camera, and I hope it helps you guys as much as it helps me, I'll watch this video before I publish it to make sure you know one of my neighbors isn't streaking across, or you know there isn't a raccoon in the background, or some kid doing the hokey pokey or something. So I always give the videos a watch, and what it helps is by looking at the videos, now I could look at the component pieces of the two different kinds of decks, and it helps me order parts, helps me kind of get a little more organized. So any of you who have to work on one of these things, I gotta tell the PP blaster on the bolt, let it sit for a few minutes. The spoon wrench, size 22 on the top bolt by the pulley, size 22 on the hammer gun. If you use the short sockets, assuming you get good coverage on the bolt, if you use the short socket, it actually puts more energy into the bolt. And once again, assuming you have enough coverage, right? You want that socket to cover the entire bolt if at all possible. I got to tell you, it spun right off, piece of cake. To get it off, otherwise, you know, you start with the ratchet wrenches with a pipe, and you know, you're huffing and puffing and tugging, and you're lucky if you don't drop the tractor on yourself. Obviously, from a safety point of view, if you drop a tractor on your arm, it's going to break your arm. So I got the thing up on a jack, and I threw a couple of jack stands underneath the deck. So if I knock it off the jack, the deck will land on the jack stand, so I won't get caught up underneath there. You know, 5 minutes of safety really helps a lot. Our friend Rusty Glove Box there, right? He's going around with a busted wing there, so you know, a little bit of safety might save you enjoying your summer rather than not enjoying your summer. All right, folks, I want to thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing. Remember to keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and please get out there and enjoy all your days. Bye now, folks.